commitment was never really strong, especially in my family. But, like, at least for me in this experience, like, I want to be committed to something and know that I can finish strong and, like, produce something that is important for not just me. Like, this, like, all of this work I'm doing is not for me. Like, I'm getting the benefit now of being able to work on something and sustain myself, but
seeing the whole picture, right? I feel like, throughout the whole list, what you're saying, right, I can really, like, see, like, the way you see this is contributing to something broader, right? Much broader than we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And that's something I have to keep reminding myself, like, I get nervous sometimes when I'm, like, running low on funds and I have to pay my rent. I'm like, shit, dude, like, I need to support myself, and this is pretty tough. Like, the breadfruit is just helping me. But then, I have to take a step back and think, like, like, this isn't about me, like, right now it is because I have to do this work, but eventually it's going to be,
It's okay.
Eventually it's going to be something
so much
I don't
bigger.
know, like, I just don't feel like the center of this. And I think that's where my role comes in, is like recognizing that this isn't for me. This is for everybody else. And that can get hard, right? When you're in the lab and you're like doing all this tedious work and you're just like, why? Like, I'm allergic to the trees. Like, I get really bad, like, allergic reactions, and the fact that I'm, like, dealing with all of it, but I'm pushing through, that's just kind of where I see my role. And it's definitely not in the center. It goes back to, like, supporting those that are trying to better the people of Hawaii.
That's so powerful what you're saying. Wow.
When I was working in the backcountry.
Sorry, where?
In the backcountry. So in California, when I moved back for that year, I found a job working in the backcountry as a trail worker.
Oh, okay.
And I did this because I didn't want to go back to my job in the office. I wanted to do something where I would be outside, but I would still be learning. And it was a really hard job. And, like, we were carrying, like, 40-pound backpacks with all of our tools, and working on building, like, magnificent staircases so that people can continue hiking and not destroy the rest of the environment around them. And so, every day it was hard work. I had to, like, really teach myself how to hike, how to breathe, and just focus on getting to work each day, because it was so strenuous. And we're moving boulders that are like this big, just to bury back in the ground. But one thing that kind of kept me going was where I was, and I would take a look around when I was feeling stressed, because when I was out there, not only was I working hard, but there were, like, things that happened to me when I was younger, or, like, things that I just never resolved from my past that were coming up. So, with the work and with all of these things that I kind of, like, suppressed inside of me, it was all coming out. And the only thing to really help was to just look up, take a breath and realize where I was. Like, the mountains, they were beautiful, but I realized how tiny I was compared to these, and, like, at night I would hear rock slides, like trees falling, rock slides, and I would think, at any moment I could freaking die. Like, a tree can fall on me and that's it. And so it taught me how to kind of recognize how little I was in comparison to everything else. Because I think sometimes when you don't think about that or don't realize that, you can become very self-centered, and people, they get big-headed and find themselves in the center and realize. And for me, I realized that's not the case in life.
I think that's one of the main issues in let's say, Western societies, right? Because people are so self-centered, so egoistic, like it's only about them.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And that's something that they've learned. And I was so lucky to have learned to learn that I'm not the center, and that there are things greater than me that I can't even explain. And so, doing this work
That you feel responsible to contribute. Okay.
Yeah, just doing this work and taking that perspective that I've learned from the backcountry and putting it into this work, it makes it easier for me to do the work because, I
understand the connection.
Yeah.
Awesome. What efforts? So this question might relate to the one that we have before, but so you said that you can explore, right? You explore for yourself what you need in order to learn. What have been results of that kind of exploration, or let's say self-learning techniques?
Yeah, I think overall it just makes me feel more confident. The fact that I'm smart enough to figure it out. That's like the main part of it. Of course, there's like little things that I learned, like about that artist that the breadfruit was named after. Like, there's stuff like that, but I think it's just showed me that I do have the potential to be able to, work towards a master's or work towards a PhD. Like it's there. I can reach that. So essentially it's the choice. Will. Yeah, it's the choice for me to do that.
So regarding this part of art, so what area of art?
I've never done ceramics, but I would love to, just because it's related to my major.
God, the Slovenia, they're so famous about
for ceramics.
Yes.
What? Yeah. That's something that I've always been interested in. So hopefully next semester I could do that. But I've always loved drawing. Drawing is like, and life art. So like drawing naked people. I love that. Because it's more than just the naked person, right? It's like the shapes and the shading and all of that I love. So the art has always just been just drawing in particular. Hopefully ceramics eventually. But
Do you also plan to expand this activity like into more like professional?
Yeah, there's actually a guy on Big Island who asked me, because he knows I'm majoring in soil science. So he asked me if he could write me into his grant because he teaches ceramics at this like studio on Big Island in Hawaii, so it's like the northwest. And he was like, I think it would be great if I could write you into this grant, and we can teach kids soil science and ceramics, like teach them together. So there are opportunities.
That would be awesome, right?
Yeah, it would be so awesome.
Interdisciplinary approach. Wow. I mean, that's so innovative, like, art and like soil science, right?
It's relevant, When I took a soil science class, the kumu was like, in ceramics they use this certain clay. So it's relevant for sure.
Amazing. So you mentioned, right, and I know that you will apply for masters. What are your thoughts about this? How do you feel?
Girl, I am so nervous. Like, I'm so nervous and overwhelmed. And it's just the funding.
But in a positive way, yeah?
In a positive way. But it's like...
Oh, it's fun. Oh, because of the funding.
It's
because
funding.
It's not like secure. You're not secure yet, right?
Right. And,
like,
I love what I'm doing now, but I also know that I want to expand on what I'm doing so that I can remind myself that it's relevant,
I mean, the project you're doing, like, it has such potential, right? You can expand it, like enormously, right?
Yeah, totally. And, like, I feel like at least with some people on campus, where they want to take agriculture, agroforestry, for example, like breadfruit is, it's such a primary component to agroforestry. So like taking my knowledge and incorporating it into that work is ideal for me.